Hi, and welcome back to Communicate between Salesforce Lightning Web Components. In this module, I will be covering the different ways nested Lightning Web Components can communicate from the child to the parent using custom events. Custom events, which I introduced you to in the last module, are used to communicate up the component hierarchy. In other words, they allow a child component to communicate with its parent. Custom events are essentially just a specialized standard DOM event. Lightning Web Components use the custom event interface to create and dispatch these events. For simple events in which no data needs to be passed to the parent component, well, the component event can be created and dispatched with a single line of code, such as what you see here. The event type, which in this example is clicked, is required and should follow the DOM event naming standard. This means there should be no uppercase letters or spaces, and if two words are used, they should be separated with an underscore. I am now going to show you a nested component scenario using Visual Studio Code and the Salesforce extension pack. Here in Visual Studio Code, the command line interface and the Salesforce extension pack have already been installed. I have also created a Salesforce DX project named LWC Events, and I have created a default Scratch org. To begin, I will create a new component in LWC folder by first expanding out the Force App main default, right-clicking on LWC, and then selecting Create Lightning Web Component. I will have to enter a name, which I'm going to go for Child at this point, hit Enter, and select the default directory to start that component. I will then switch over to the markup for this, and right here in the template tag, insert some markup, and then walk you through that. Other than some base components to format the component, all this it does is include a single Lightning button with an on-click handler defined in the markup. The handler function, which is in the JavaScript for this component, will also be simple, and I'll just paste that in. Essentially, we're just going to have one handler function called handleClick, and all it does is create a custom event named clicked. I will now need to create the parent component. I can do that by going up here to View, Command Palette, and then selecting the SFDX and create Lightning Web Component again. It'll ask for that name, and this time I'm going to name it something different. Let's say parent, just to keep it simple here. And then hit Enter and select the default directory again. And for the markup, I will again paste in the markup here and then walk you through what I've done. Notice that it includes a formatted text-based component as well as the child component that I just created. And that is what makes it nested. The only thing I have left to do now is to save all my changes, which I can do by going to File and then Save All. At this point, I have not pushed this code to my Scratch org, and I have not created a Lightning app to host these components, which is necessary, but I will be walking you through doing that in the next clip. In the meantime, I want you to see what those two components would look like if they were rendered inside a Lightning app. This portion is the parent component, and here is the child component nested inside that parent component. And now here's a question for you. What do you think would happen if this was pushed to the Scratch org and I were to click that button? You want to guess? Well, it turns out at this point nothing would happen. And do you know why? Well, if you don't, it's no big deal, because I will give you the answer in the next clip. So stay with me.